sing.
Oh, God!
Oh, God! Again, there is no God.
Good hello. I'm Anonymous. That's right, Anonymous is back. It's time to return once again to It's All in Your Head.
What are we stopping on this lonely road for?
Gee, it looks like my car's out of gas.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, it's all in your head. I know we covered that all to hell, but it turns out that Negativland has been booked to perform this over the Edge Radio live on a stage in Toronto. So after praying over this together, we have chosen It's All in Your Head as a typical Over the Edge show to perform on a stage.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
So tonight, 2 of the 4 or 5 members of the top flop group Negativland have gathered together in pseudo-musical fellowship to begin, and I stress begin, to try out a possible stage version of Over the Edge, It's All in Your Head, FM. With me tonight are Anonymous and Anonymous. Both of them have long members of Negativland. Me, I'm just Anonymous, the drummer. And in my spare time, I was also the founder of this new and unmusical spiritual philosophy called It's All in Your Head. Now we're all Headites in Negativland, and incidentally, Headites are banned from radio for the most part, so you are lucky indeed to find us coming from inside yours. We Headites are spending what time we have left reminding the whole world that when it comes to God, it's all in your head. And when you really think about it, we think your head will agree with ours. But agreeing with us is easy as grease. That's just baby step 1. For then, you will clearly realize for the first time how much self-induced trouble the human race is actually in. Mental trouble, typified by our basically unreasonable belief in supernatural monotheism. The It's All in Your Head movement is a universal cause, an attempt to change all civilizations as we know them. We will be contested by Homo sapiens everywhere because we're proposing to redirect their many supernatural spirit hunts with a mighty righteous focus on common sense and the state of our sciences. No matter what regional religion we find ourselves subjected to. But if you join It's All in Your Head, the movement, become a Headite yourself, don't expect a head of hoses. If we want to smother the superstitious absolutism of supernatural monotheism, just like we did smoking, the next step will be yours, baby. Each and every one of you, to carry the Headite philosophy, it's all in your head, to carry it out to all who were unable to attend this broadcast. Thank you for supporting the future. No pictures, please. This is radio. Well, that's how it would start if you were there, but since everything is different here, allow me to see if Negativland is there. Yes, I'm hearing you. It's All in Your Head, FM.
tonight, you are enjoying the miracle of radio.
And then tell me again, there is no
All right, let's see which mics you're using.
I'm probably number 3. No?
Keep talking.
3. That's it. No,
No.
I wouldn't start.
No, it's that one. 2.
This one? This is 2.
And what's Anonymous 2 on?
Damn.
Oh, I don't know.
No,
this
he's
one's
on the green one or the yellow one. Yeah, we can do that. Either one.
The green one has more flaccidity. Look.
But is that
It certainly is. And as Negativland's member.
Now the mic just switched again.
I
prefer if you...
Which one?
Oh, sure. Just leave it on this one.
All right.
Now,
That's
first of
fine.
all, Anonymous, that's not how I'd start the show at all. I'd probably start the show by turning on the on-air sign, which we'll have on stage with us.
Oh, no.
And see, I think that whole beginning you have there is just too. It's too anti-religious. It's too anti-God for me. It comes off like you're an atheist or something. Now I know you're not. At least you say you aren't. But that's how it comes off. So I don't agree with that as the start for the show.
Well, I thought it was excellent.
That's fine. You would. You wrote it.
May I say that we didn't want to start the show this way because it was considered too self-indulgent, self-aware, hip.
But there are too many
Ironic.
unknowns. Too many unknowns.
Yeah,
to
that's
do
why
that.
I didn't want to start the show where we're talking about the show as if we
Right.
think it's so damn interesting to hear every damn thing that Negativland has to say about their own damn shows. Who cares?
All right, if everything is straight audio-wise, I think we can get off this and actually do something. Like, here's how I was going to start the show.
People are queer, they're always going, scrambling and rushing about. Why don't they stop someday, address themselves this way? Why are we here? Where are we going? It's time that we found out. We're not here to stay, we're on a short holiday.
Oh, no.
Life is just a bowl of cherries. Don't take it serious. It's too mysterious. You work, you save, you worry so, but you can't take your dough when you go, go, go. Keep repeating it's the berries. The strongest oak must fall. Sweet things in life to you were just loaned. So how can you lose what you've never owned? Life is just a bowl of cherries. Live and laugh at it all.
You're listening to It's All in Your Head Radio, putting the less back in godless.
No, it's all in your head, FM. I like that.
Oh, yes.
Will believe.
How do I know? The Bible tells me so.
We believe. 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 You will believe.
Imitation of Willie Howard singing his chorus in the show.
Get out of my head now. You guys are all in my head. I cannot take it. I'm gonna jump off this bridge here.
the Toronto broadcast, the Toronto performance?
What's that?
Are you going to broadcast the Toronto performance?
I don't know. I think it'll be on the net. It's going to be like end of April and beginning of May.
Are you going to take calls during it?
I don't know much about it. I hope so.
The most compelling part of All in Your Head for me was the shaving of the monkey.
Yes, we will have the shaving of the monkey. Not tonight. It's so hard to get them out of the zoo.
But in Toronto.
Oh, yes, we will have a shaved monkey there.
Okay.
But I have to warn people, once you've seen a monkey shaved,
Oh, you can't go back after that.
and it's hard to stop with just one monkey.
Yep.
You know, if you have access to a lot of hairy monkeys, the urge to start shaving them
Yep.
all.
Once you've seen one, you just want to see them all shaved.
And I suspect that some of them started shaving themselves.
I haven't seen that.
I can't prove it. I haven't seen it myself. Like, you know, you save 2 monkeys, and then you look and you see 3 shaved monkeys, and you say, did I just lose count, or are they starting to shave themselves?
Will Buck Logic make an appearance here?
Well, I don't know. This is so makeshift tonight. We were just fooling with some material, and I have a Buck Logic, but it's only the ones I've already done. I don't have anything new, see, yet.
Okay.
Well, you don't have an answer. Well, you don't have an answer.
No, that's right, we don't. And I don't know that we take many calls from the audience. What would we do, have them call from their cell phones? They won't understand what's going on. Unlike our faithful listeners out there now who do understand what's going on.
And I think that Gene Scott deserves a little bit of a mention on that bill with a perfect.
Isn't it a pity that he should pass away the very week that we...
Gene Scott is dead?
Monday.
Jesus.
And by the way, another celebrity death, which...
How old was he? Stop talking, caller, for a second and fill me in.
Until recently,
Stop, are you listening? Stop.
All in his head, they are no
He's not listening. He can't hear me.
Took the way out, which I approve of, for all who make a choice as to how
Are these
they
microphones
die.
not hooked up to go into
Can you hear he's on his cell phone. He doesn't know what's going on.
Did he say Gene Scott committed suicide?
No, he died of prostate suicide or
That's
something.
what the PR department's putting out.
Or liver suicide. Livicide.
Well, you don't have an answer. Ah, well, that's because God made it that way. That's just a dreadful way to conduct religion, and it's also doomed because it means that the more things science is able to explain, the smaller and smaller part of the unpainted part of the floor is left for you, this poor God that you've created to occupy. That doesn't, it just seems silly.
In a building
Okay, that's good. I like that. Poor God on the little part of the painted floor. That's kind of evocative. It's got a nice imagery there. I think we could use that on the show for sure.
It's an effort to move away.
See, you have this mic up. If that's what you wanted, I'm going to end up saying all kinds of dumb stuff on the air like that and just mess it up. But it was your idea that I would just talk and talk about our damn show. As if it's so damn interesting to hear everything I say.
Stop talking.
Who cares
and
what I
fill
say?
me in. No, I would not comment on every little thing. You can catch me after the show.
Yeah, I'll be lucky if I do. You won't even talk to me on the phone. You hate talking to me on the phone. The only way I communicate with the guys in my band is through email.
It's not about us. It's about the Almighty Lord Jesus Christ and whether He exists or not.
It's the path that one is drawn into when you start trying to use nature to prove God's existence.
From this God-fearing to religion, to Jesus-loving religion. More of an emphasis on Jesus, less of an emphasis on God the Father. And the way that moved in evangelicalism, which was the dominant form of Christianity in the 19th century, was toward what a friend we have in Jesus. Hymns like that, seeing Jesus as walking with you, talking with you, holding your hand.
The sweet Jesus.
The sweet Jesus, that's right.
Did the sweet Jesus further degenerate into the effeminate Jesus? Meaning more womanly than man?
Well,
the hair, the look?
Yes, it depends on your perspective whether that's a degeneration or an improvement, but certainly Jesus was feminized over the course of the 19th century.
Do you regard feminization of Jesus as anything else but a distortion?
Well, I don't really know exactly what Jesus was like.
Well, that produced a reaction to that. And then we had the manly Jesus, did we not?
Yes, we did.
Was that in the era of Teddy Roosevelt and his lament over civilization of men and that famous speech he gave?
That's right, on the strenuous life. In that period, right at the end of the 19th century, turning into the 20th, as Teddy Roosevelt's Rough Riders are going up San Juan Hill and we're pursuing the Spanish-American War, there's an effort to buff Jesus up, essentially, to emphasize his scenes where, say, he kicks the money changers out of the temple, or where he's a carpenter and he's buff and he's got strong muscles, that sort of thing. And that was an effort to bring men back into the churches. There were very few men in the churches at that time, and it was an effort to attract them.
Let us have faith.
His response will be, well, there's a very important difference. Jesus really was the Son of God.
There's a guy in this show the girls love to kiss, get thousands of beats just for crooning like this. Time is just a bowl of nuts. So live and laugh at it all.
You know, the difference is that my belief is true. So you can only make the observation that there's something similar in all these beliefs from an outside perspective. You know, only if you don't share the beliefs can you say that they reflect the same impulse or that they both represent a kind of supernaturalism. Because if you believe it, you'll say it doesn't represent supernaturalism, it represents truth.
We've got to think about epistemology, the way we know things. We've got to think about epistemology. The way we know things.
When all the time has passed away,
How we know things. The way we know things. How we know things. We've got to think about epistemology. The way we know things, how we know things.
When I lay these questions before God, I get no answer. But a rather special sort of no answer. It is not the locked door. It is more like a silent gaze, as though he shook his head, like, peace, child, you don't understand.
One of the greatest remaining mysteries of science is the enigma of human consciousness. What makes us who we are? Creates that sense of the self and the world. Understanding how the brain creates the self is one of the holy grails of modern science.
Materialism is a theory that says there are little particles of matter that have size and extension and shape, but physicists aren't materialists anymore. They believe in quarks with mysterious properties like spin. Now, if consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe, why can't it just be one more of the fundamental properties that we think of as physical?
Consciousness is fundamental and irreducible. If you want to say it's one more physical property, space, time, mass, spin, and consciousness, I don't care how you use the word physical. In fact, I kind of like the idea that somewhere deep in the physical causal order, I mean, Immanuel Kant, Bertrand Russell said, we don't know the intrinsic nature of the physical world. The intrinsic nature of the physical world is just revealed to us from the outside, from how it looks, from how every physical particle affects every other physical particle. But what's it like in itself? What's the thing in itself? Kant said, one natural speculation is that intrinsic nature of the physical world has something very deep to do with consciousness. This leads to what philosophers call panpsychism.
And it appears in me as a law urging me to write and making me feel responsible and uncomfortable and making me feel responsible. And it appears in me as a law urging me to write and making me feel responsible. It appears in me something is directing the universe. Something is directing the universe.
He's drawing from medieval passion plays. I think he's drawing from the tradition of the horror movie. I think he's drawing from the action-adventure movie. There's all sorts of sources that
Let me give
that
you
we see
a
here in the
real
film.
question here on what image may be emerging. Some viewers have said that the brutalization and death of Jesus leave the audience with a thirst for revenge. In this sense, could we say that a new image of Jesus as a Savior demands, or at least inspires, vengeance? In other words, we feel victims of the terrorists of 9/11, 3/11, and we want vengeance. We see Jesus, another innocent, and he's brutalized, and we have this feeling of vengeance. Is there any of that at work here?
I think so, absolutely. I think one of the themes of my book is that these various images of Jesus track cultural, political, economic transformations in the United States, and the key one we're in now is the post-9/11 era of terrorism, war in Iraq, war in Afghanistan. And it's not surprising to me that we have a revisiting here of this more Teddy Roosevelt macho Jesus in this movie and in our culture.
We have learned to take personal testimony at face value. If somebody stands up and offers searing personal testimony of some awful personal experience or some alleged abuse, we're not supposed to question that. We're not supposed to seek evidence of that. We're not supposed to cross-examine the person who's testifying because that's considered another form of abuse. We're supposed to take that at face value. And there's a lot in the culture that encourages us, I think, to confuse passion and apparent sincerity of belief with truth.
Wow, Macho Jesus, that's amazing. Anyway, here's something I recorded a while back.
Just abounding in this place. We're using radio signals to broadcast. This is a wireless mic that we're using. There are radio, there are TV signals in here, but you aren't aware of them because they're broadcast at an ultra-high frequency, way above what a human ear is able to hear. And so you can't discern them with your physical ear, but they are here. And a person that says, oh, I don't believe there's any in here, I don't see any radio signals. I'm adding this to the airway. Come on.
I don't think panpsychism has. I mean, my own view is consciousness is good and something special about human beings, and it's
about anything except your little physical realm, what you can perceive with your senses. You can prove that there are radio signals here by taking a receiver that will receive those ultra-high frequency sound waves and demodulate them down into an audible frequency that you can hear, and you can prove that they're here. You can prove that there are literally thousands of sound waves going around in this building. All right? But you have to have something to transform that power from that unaudible sound range down see it. Well, basically, this is what I believe God has given us in the soul and in the body.
Just make sure Mark Hosler takes the cue from Frank Zappa and shut up and play your booper.
I don't play
He's
the
the only
booper.
one here who doesn't have
I
one.
don't have a booper, you dummy.
Where's David?
David is actually right now up in Washington State, ready to play his booper on the air if he gets on the phone, which he threatened he might do.
Yeah, but we do
Kinda
have
defensive.
we have
this is
3 boopers here.
There are 3 boopers in this.
Yeah, but I don't get one.
What's the third one?
I have 2.
You have 2 boopers?
Yep.
I only have 1 booper.
Yeah, I have 9 boopers.
Anonymous and who else?
Yes, we just built a nice new one, and I'm playing it right now.
Who built it?
Me and David.
How many knobs are on it?
There are 4, including a volume control.
You mean he built one and sent it to you?
No, I was up there.
Oh, you were up there. That's right.
Yes.
Hey, how do I buy a genuine Negativland booper?
Well, you just got to petition the weatherman, who
This-
supposedly was going to start making them
this
regularly.
$2,000 or $3,000 might do the trick. Actually,
This is my marketing. This is my marketing point. If we were to manufacture
Yeah,
and
how much would you be
retail
willing to pay for one,
boopers
sir?
Way
in
overpriced there,
hot head
No,
shops
sorry.
all over
The
America,
world famous, internationally renowned Negativland.
we would be
are
billionaires.
handmade, custom
Billionaires.
It should be worth thousands.
There are
thousands
so
of
many
dollars.
uses for the booper that it is a real crying shame.
See, you
crying
never should have put the
shame
mic on because I'll say dumb
that
stuff
this
like
has
that.
never been done.
Peter's just squinting. He's looking ashamed of me right now. He's horrified.
There will probably never be
Rightfully
a
so.
booper
I think he
marketed
should be horrified.
by Negativland, and it's a crying shame.
Well, I'm going to go back to my.
You have your own mute button in case you ever.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me turn the mute.
I mean, that's
Hold
the
on.
thing.
Now, wait a minute. If I can turn this on, then I could actually mute myself when I'm talking. I could keep talking, but you wouldn't. Wait a minute. Is that? How do you do that?
You are risking
I could-
having your mic
dude,
lowered.
I could actually cut my off.
I just realized something. We have 4 boopers here because I have 3. I forgot about this one.
Well, I'll tell you, he's
David
making them.
made it into one.
He's making
It's
them
the first
fast
one he
enough
did.
that we could
Okay.
certainly sell them if we
Well,
wanted
then how
to.
come you don't have one pan like left and one right?
I
and
do.
one in the middle?
I do, but the effect is Mexican.
Would you like to
They
order?
are.
Would you like to order now, or what?
Yeah,
are you listening, David?
The ghost of Hunter S. Thompson just told the ghost of Frank Zappa to tell Mark Hosler to shut up and play his booper.
And how many
Play
boopers
mine.
did you want?
How much would you spend for me to shut up?
Well, you might get $3,000 for a booper after you die, but
You'd
on
spend
eBay or
that?
something,
You would spend $3,000 for a booper, custom made now.
only after all the members of the Negativland are deceased.
Are extinguished.
I would pay maybe $200 or $300 above your cost.
Easy. That's
We were thinking 250.
I would guarantee you $200 of profit.
each one unique, each one in a unique case with its unique
No,
knobs.
they honestly, they'd have to go for at least like $800.
No, 250. Just
For
dead
the
on.
amount of work that goes into making things?
Well, it's true.
a hell of a lot of work.
It's ridiculous how much work.
It's nothing
We're
compared
not kids
to
anymore here, you know.
nothing
You know
compared to
how old
how
some of us
hard
are?
they are. Does he
Oh.
ever
You know
stop
how old
talking
one of
or
us
what?
is?
I guess he
Hosler,
doesn't.
you got to learn how to solder, and maybe it'll go faster.
I don't do that.
Come on.
No, I'm not one of the solder buddies here in our group.
Oh, let's have 2 boopers. Yeah. All right, I'll turn mine up. All right, here we go. That's the hamster set, the guinea pig setting. Oh, here it comes. Wait. No, I can't do it.
Everyone knows a booper.
Yeah, maybe we should just scrap this whole idea for a show and just go out with it. In fact, I don't even need to be there, and the caller in now would probably be glad, and we could just you two, anonymous and anonymous, you can go out and do the show with your 4 damn boopers.
There's the
It's all in your head, FM
Yeah.
tonight on Over the Edge.
And anyway, none of it's going to happen because it's all in your head.
This is KPFA Berkeley.
This is the caller here. Yeah, normally I love you, Mark, but it's just I'm possessed by the ghost of Hunter S. Thompson tonight, and he just didn't care for
Oh,
you.
that's
love
right.
me?
He's dead too. You knew that, right, Mark?
Oh,
Hunter S. Thompson was found dead. You know that
I know.
too?
He shot himself.
Yep.
Probably was that bullet was all in his head too.
Geez, both guys shot themselves, Gene Scott and Hunter Thompson, within 1 day of each other.
Gene Scott shot himself in the rectum, and
I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what's going to happen to his collection of Bibles now.
Who? Hunter S. Thompson's?
No, Gene Scott. He has a fantastically expensive set of ancient Bibles. Of course, not one of them is true. That's what we're here for.
Is Dave Scott's ashes, are they going to be shot out of a cannon, out of a double prone fist?
Double prone fist? What did he say?
It's hard to tell sometimes.
Macho Jesus.
Yes, a double prone fist. I think that's very clear.
Macho Jesus.
But it's not everywhere.
In this movie and in our culture.
If it's a fundamental, it would be matter is electrons are everywhere.
Thesis of how we believe is that humans are pattern-seeking, storytelling animals.
Consciousness just hides in very special brains.
Well, Berkeley would say, have you ever seen anything without consciousness?
It's almost impossible for us to look out at nature and not find some sort of pattern. And then tell a story about it.
By Nick Herbert, and he mentioned that George Berkeley was an Irish bishop, and I guess that's who the city of Berkeley was named after. And he said that Berkeley was an idealist, he believed in idealism, believing that it was all in your head, that there was no real reality, that everything came from the mind rather than the mind being created from reality. And then he goes on to talk about quantum mechanics and how it seems to need an observer for reality to actually resolve itself from this nebulous quantum wave equation. Oh, in my head. And yeah, I guess it's true. Dr. Gene Scott did die on the 22nd, but he says he died of a stroke. I'm sure the cancer really caused the stroke, but looks like he did die. And I guess Melissa Scott's the one who's going to get it all right, unless he has some kind of prenuptial agreement.
Well, that's true. But
no, every time you see something, you're conscious.
Well, that's right. But consciousness goes where I go, where minds go. But
that's what myths and stories are all about.
Minds aren't everywhere.
Is giving some meaning to the pattern. Now, the question is the pattern real or not? The one best method we have for determining that is science. And, for example, there are patterns all over nature, like near where I live in Eagle Rock, California, there's a giant boulder that looks like an eagle. Well, there's nobody there praying to it. There's no religious significance there. But if you go to this car rental agency building in Clearwater, Florida, the Virgin Mary appears on the side of the glass building. It's just a film buildup from water, sprinkler system, and a palm tree. But there are people there with their crutches and wheelchairs praying to be healed. These are both random patterns in nature. The difference is that one of them has a spiritual significance, so the story behind it takes on deeper meaning.
You're listening to It's All in Your Head FM by the grace of no God.
I listen in my car and at home. It gives my brain a rest. It's really great. All in Your Head FM.
You know, only in America would a conversation like this consistently be brought back to this need to prove God. Look, you can't prove it. Let me just say it as clearly as I can. There are no proofs of God.
Yeah, but you have to prove everything else in court, but they don't have to prove that there is a God, but they make everybody swear to the Bible and everything.
Whether there is a God or not, nobody knows.
God with 4 fingers on his hand.
Do we really have any record of any observation of anything that didn't involve consciousness?
They won't give up their salvation by blood.
Christianity is stupid.
They won't give up their salvation by blood.
Christianity is stupid.
And I think a religion who drinks blood every day, the priest, is a religion for cannibals.
Christianity is stupid.
And so I really think we ought to listen what Jesus said before they killed him and not believe that the crucifixion is the thing we are saved by.
Christianity is stupid. Christianity is stupid.
Find out, I guess, in the end.
My impression is, as I said in the beginning, it starts with the virgin birth, and nothing says the creed about Jesus. He might as well have sat at home doing crossword. For the Christian, it is not important. For them, only is important. He must not die of, say, food poisoning or old age, because they are addicted to a bloody, cruel death. By
Christianity,
this death, they are redeemed.
Stupid.
Me, as a law, urging you to be right, making me feel responsible and uncomfortable when I do wrong. In the moral law, somebody or something from beyond the material universe is getting at us.
Can I get some echo on this line here? Give me some echo, please. Oh, thank you.
But in the meantime, as storytelling animals, we continue to spin stories about our world, and the scientific worldview is our story.
Christianity is stupid.
For today.
Somebody looks at the complexity of human life and says, given enough time, anything can happen. Another looks at that and says, a complex design like this, I wonder if there was a creator or a thought designer behind this.
Are you familiar with Are you familiar with the little quip that 1,000,000 to 1 odds happen 8 times a day in New York City? It's the law of big numbers. There's enough stuff happening out there. There's enough particles, there's enough forces, the sun is burning, it's putting energy into the system.
That's
of course we generate complexity
scientifically doesn't make sense.
Out of chaos. This is called emergence, the principle of emergence. Out of chaos emerges complexity.
Christianity is stupid.
Oh, because the observation was conscious.
You're getting spooky on me. I think we got to end this conversation because before I get really weirded out.
Stupid. Communism is good. 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 Communism is good.
Let us have faith.
Without any designer at all.
There were long, drawn-out debates over which books should be included and which should be excluded. In the 2nd and 3rd Christian centuries, so 100, 200, 300 years after Jesus' death, there were Christian groups who held to the canonical standing of books that eventually didn't make it in. Some Christians thought the Gospel of Thomas should be included, or the Gospel of Peter, or the Gospel of Philip. Others maintained that other apocalypses, such as the Apocalypse of Peter, should be included, or a book called The Shepherd of Hermas.
Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers.
Some people didn't think the book of Revelation should be included.
Joshua, Judges, Ruth to Samuels.
The book of Hebrews.
Kings and Kings to Chronicles.
So there were these long, drawn-out arguments. It's interesting and quite shocking to many of my undergraduate students, to learn that the first person ever to list our 27 books as the 27 books of the New Testament and no others, the first person to do that, the first person ever to list our 27 books as the 27 books of the New Testament and no others. The first person to do this was a man named Athanasius, who was a powerful bishop of the Church of Alexandria, Egypt, who wrote a letter to his churches in the year 367, in which he listed the 27 books that we have. This is the first time in history that anybody listed our 27 books, and only our 27 books.
We're singing, yes, we're singing the books in the Bible. We're singing, yes, we're singing the Old Testament.
That might makes right.
Let us have faith.
That might makes right.
So that it took over 300 years before the canon was put into some kind of final form.
Let us have faith.
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 Isaiah, then comes Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, and Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Daniel, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, the end. We're singing, yes, we're singing.
We believe, we believe, we believe. We believe, you will believe.
This disclaimer sticker was approved by Cobb County of Georgia Board of Education Thursday, March 28, 2002.
The books in the Bible.
You will believe.
We're singing, yes, we're singing the Old Testament.
The books in the Bible. We're singing, yes, we're singing the Old Testament.
Ain't no use in preachers preaching when they don't have teaching. That was great.
And there continued to be debates long after Athanasius into the 4th and 5th centuries as Christians continued to disagree.
Let's see how fast you can really go.
What's quite remarkable is that, we think of the New Testament collection as coming out of the beginning of the movement, but actually it's nearly 4 centuries before we find a collection which is declared canonical. That only happened when you had powerful bishops, in fact bishops backed by military and police power, when you finally had a Christian empire. And Athanasius did that as he was trying to consolidate all the Christian groups over Egypt. There were very diverse groups.
Joshua, Judges, Ruth to Samuel.
and diverse authorities and diverse teachers. And he wanted to make sure they were all consolidated under his leadership as the single bishop.
They tell all the children the devil's a villain, but it ain't necessarily so.
Esther and measurements of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes.
To get into heaven, don't snap for a 7.
Singing, yes, we're singing.
Who was most powerful in Egypt.
The books in the Bible.
It's clean, have no faults.
And this collection, he thought, would work for that purpose.
We're singing, yes, we're singing the Old Testament.
The gospel whenever it's possible, but with a grain of salt.
Yes, we're singing the books in the Bible.
Methuselah lived 900 years. But who calls that living when no gal will give in to no man what is 900 years?
So he basically said, these are the springs of salvation. These 27 books are the right ones. All those other books, get rid of them. They're secret, they're apocryphal, they teach terrible blasphemy.
Is energy put into the system. That's it. It just happens spontaneously. Now, as pattern-seeking animals, it's impossible for us to think, it can't just happen. There must be somebody behind the curtain pulling the strings, but there isn't.
The impersonal mind at the back of this law.
The ethical commands to which religion seeks to lend its weight require some other foundations instead. Society cannot do without them. But it is dangerous to link up obedience to them with religious belief.
If no set of moral ideas were truer or better than any other, there would be no sense in preferring civilized morality to savage morality.
Yeah, now instead of saying this is baloney, let's think about why this happens. Why would people experience epiphanies like this? And we know enough about the brain now that we know that a certain percentage of the population has epiphany-type experiences that are triggered by lucid dreams, by hypnopompic hallucinations, by sleep deprivation, and so on. I've had a number of these and experimented with some of these to see what it's like to have an out-of-body experience that I recount in the book, and it's just fascinating that to me, it's fascinating that the brain is capable of conceiving of such things as omnipresent and omnipotent gods. That to me is ultimately the most interesting question, is how the brain is capable of conceiving of that.
Morality to Nazi morality.
It would be an undoubted advantage if we were to leave God out altogether and recognize the purely human origins of all the precepts and regulations of civilization. And recognize the purely human origins of all the precepts and regulations of civilization.
These rules of living together in relative harmony evolved as a part of the species in order to survive. That is, you can't have organisms that are completely, totally selfish and self-destructive and murderous and so on. No species could survive. So we evolved to be cooperative, altruistic. We practice reciprocal altruism. I'll scratch your back if you'll scratch mine. We even practice indirect altruism. For example, I might leave a tip at the restaurant tonight, even if I'm never going to go to that restaurant again. Because it makes me feel good. Why does it make me feel good? Because it actually helps somebody. If there are a cohort of genes for selfishness, there's also a cohort of genes for cooperativeness and altruism. We are both good and bad, not in an ultimate sense, but in an evolutionary sense. It's built into our being.
We'll have a reunion. Our loved ones and friends will be gathered around. Some faces are missed. They have gone on to heaven. They will be there with Jesus till the trumpet shall sound. What up, 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 what up.
But in point of fact, since the Neanderthals until now, we have a choice of many, many cultures' notions of what the afterlife is. And the amazing thing is that they don't cohere very well. Each culture designs what it thinks is important for its afterlife.
Give up, did you hear that? Give up.
And they don't necessarily have any relationship to other people's afterlives.
Give up, give up, give up. Christianity is too bad. Christianity is too bad. Christianity is too bad.
And I say that is pagan pre-Christian atrocity story of sacrifices of first born son turned into Christian good news.
All right.
I can't stand that anymore.
Kid, it would be, if we could, to call the dead back. She said, not to me, but to the chaplain, I am at peace with God. She smiled, but not at me. Can you not see death as the friend and deliverer? It means stripping off that body which is tormenting you. What are you afraid of? Has this world been so kind to you that you should leave it with regret?
What a wonderful
Let us have faith. Let us have faith. Let us have faith. Let us have faith.
Outward programming for inner space.
You're listening to It's All in Your Head FM. Think inside the box.
That's a good one. Some of the other ones I didn't like it so much.
Oh, that's a good one, yes. Put a little check beside that one.
Put a little star. Wait a minute. Here. Let me just pull out my member. And as a member. Wait a minute.
True or false?
Let us have faith.
What a happy reunion in heaven will be.
This is the Universal Media Network.
A tool of our instincts. And that we are all compelled to behave cleverly or stupidly by the commands of our emotional attitudes. And that we are all compelled to behave cleverly or stupidly by the commands of our emotional attitudes.
I'm preaching this sermon to show.
What are your reactions to those statements? All the precepts of civilization. What are your reactions to those statements? Psychoanalysis has taught us that our intellect is a feeble thing.
It ain't
of our instincts, and that we are all compelled to behave cleverly or stupidly by the commands of our emotional attitudes.
Anything happens if we are open to see that creation is coming alive.
The concept that our conscious brains actually have receptors that both respond to prayer and also lead us to sense that a presence is with us at particular moments.
What we think occurs is that a given group of neurons, nerve cells in the brain, firing, having electric impulses at the same time, corresponds to a particular sensation or feeling. And it's a map. So somehow or other, we're able to translate where neurons are firing. One's on the left, one's on the right, one's a little next to it. We have those, let's say 13 neurons all firing. That means I feel good. But how does that get translated into sensation?
If I hadn't believed it, I wouldn't have seen it with my own eyes.
And that's something that we want to understand.
If I hadn't believed it, I wouldn't have seen it with my own eyes.
And we don't. So that's a big problem. And how much of your brain is involved in a given thought? Is it one little spot of your brain? Or when you have a thought, is it a lot of different places in your brain all contributing to that thought?
Is coming alive. The real is the beautiful, transformed with love. And the wonder of new life, turn on right now. Birds on the wing, trees and the rivers, stones in their silence.
I think it's a normal part of the human mind that we do have these extraordinary experiences. There's a book called Why God Won't Go Away, and it it suggests that we are, in a sense, wired to have these extraordinary experiences in which our religious life is innovated, and we find new ways of expressing what the afterlife is about.
But actually, let's think about it. What does that really mean? Why? Why is it that a certain group of neurons in the left front of your brain, when they go off, should make you feel anxious, and another should make you feel happy?
Tonight, you are enjoying the miracle of radio. Radio at its finest over frequency modulation.
KZFR, thank you for reminding me it is way past time to tell everybody who we are. We are It's All in Your Head, FM. Absolutely unaffiliated with any radio station whatsoever.
You guys are all in my head again.
Actually, it's KPFA in Berkeley,
FM!
KPFB in Berkeley, and KFCF in Fresno,
FM.
and KZFR in Chico.
Cool.
KZFR has the unique distinction of listening to us only after midnight. That's the kind of station I like.
Yeah, but I like too. I like that too. You know? You guys could hurt my head at any time.
It's All in Your Head is here to convince Americans of every persuasion that it's all in their heads.
So you live once you're dead.
This simple realization forms the foundation of our It's All in Your Head movement. We Headites have carefully considered the likelihood of the supernatural God concept known as monotheism and have found it to be as moot as fairy tale logic. There may be something out there, but it certainly isn't any God of ours. If this long overdue realization hits your true button, we invite you to join us. There's no text to learn, no meetings to attend, and no afterlife to wish for. As a Headite, you're on your own, with no direction from Negativland. We are unreachable. It's all about your head, here and now, and what's in it, here and now. One thing in it is the supernatural God concept from beginning to end. Headites don't believe that God created morality at all. We think it's a lot more likely that morality created God. Do you have a human brain? Spiritually comes with it always has.
No, you.
What does that mean?
We don't. You don't have a human brain.
Spirituality comes with it always has.
Yeah, I think that's one of those
Do you have a brain?
No.
Spirituality comes with. Isn't that what it says?
See, again, I don't
You
even
have to
agree
put
with all-
W-I-I-I-T-H.
How are we going to figure this show out when I don't even agree?
Stop not agreeing, will you? That will solve everything.
It's tough. We're trying to do a show where we all have different ideas about God and religion and spirituality and all that, which is fine. We can agree.
But that right there was just a Dorito as opposed to a typo. It was written right, but it wasn't
was a
read
Dorito,
right.
No, not a typo.
The whole thing is a Rito as far as I'm
He's not
concerned.
reading it right.
Yeah, but we don't all agree, which
No,
is okay. But
it's-
once we're on stage and people are watching us, they're going to assume that anything you, Anonymous, say, or you over here, Anonymous, too, say, that represents what we all think.
That's
of course.
silly.
No, it's not
that's
silly.
Stupid.
Of course
no,
that's what people are
that's
going
as
to
stupid
assume.
as what's that religion?
The Mark Hostler religion. That's that stupid
No,
one.
I think you're completely wrong. Let's ask a caller. Caller?
Yes, sir.
When you go to a show and the band says something on
they
stage,
start reading things to
will
you
you
from
be
on stage?
quiet?
Do you assume
be
that
quiet.
it represents the
No,
music?
Sure, I'll be quiet if he's reading something.
He's not talking to you.
He's very annoying. All right, look, when you go to a show and you hear the band say something on stage, do you assume that the band believes what they're saying?
No, not at all. It's an act.
Exactly. Now, Mr. Anonymous 1, what do you think of that?
What do you mean it's an act?
See, you don't know human psychology.
Apparently not.
People do not believe what bands say. Never have, never will. It's show business.
Can I retake without a redo and see if Anonymous has such a problem with it? Let me just try that again.
Go ahead. Our caller's shaving right now.
Do you have a human brain that spirituality comes with? See, it now. See, I put 3 I's in there, so it says W-I-I-I-T-H. With.
Can I give you a little background music here?
Oh,
Would you
please.
like that?
Oh, sure.
All right.
I'll play some too.
Oh, that's going to clash.
And I'll just be able to read right along with that. That's why so many religious concepts that we now call paganism long preceded all the ones that we now identify with as a single sky god based.
No, there was an extra A in there.
Yes, I realize that.
I told you to read it first before
I
you
did,
ate.
I did, but I haven't slept in 3
Kill
days.
that over there on that turntable. I had my own thing going on.
Well, the tension's just lost. How you doing, Toronto?
Okay, let's try that again. That's a good thing to practice. Try that one more time.
They may be
Come on,
listening
let's hear it.
on...
No, just the thing about Toronto. Try that again.
They may be listening on the net, you know.
How are
might
you?
be. They might be.
How?
How you doing, Toronto?
Yeah, see, in the middle. That's good. Good. In the middle of the, in the middle of the show. If things aren't working out,
things aren't working out.
I don't
know.
know.
I think Don and I will just start playing our 85 boopers simultaneously when things don't work out.
I don't think we should take the personal hiya folks approach to this. I think we should take the approach of a radio format.
I agree.
We are a radio format. We're cool and reserved and removed.
Hiya, Toronto. We're up here, cool and reserved. How are you doing?
That's your
there,
folksy.
Let me have a little sip of it. Well, I'm.
Farm report type of approach. No. This is going to be a radio.
That's your calling.
A professional
God,
radio.
why should do the farm report
format.
in Asheville? Oh my God!
Oh, we've got udders all over the freeway here, and we're doing a little. The milking last night was fabulous. Actually.
Yeah, that's utterly amazing.
Let us have faith.
Well, the hay baling has been going great, and actually we've got bales and bales of it all over the entranceway here.
And I've got a card to read here at Mrs. Elmore T. Fledge has an answering machine she'd like to sell. And if you're interested in Mrs. Fledge's machine, she asks you to call her at 555-8694. And Elmer Fledge will be happy to sell you that machine. And now back to the farm report.
God is dead. How come you never hear him say that on the farm report?
Well,
that's our lead story today, folks. Oh,
well,
no wonder.
Again, I think this idea, which was not my idea, it was Anonymous's idea, that we should have the mics up, was a big mistake.
I had.
I don't doubt it.
I only have them up so that you can say intelligent things whenever you feel like it. But it turns out,
yeah, I feel like saying things all the time, but they aren't intelligent. So
exactly.
I've got half of it right.
Exactly, and you're wasting a lot of valuable mixed time.
That's right.
This is Over the Edge. This is
It's All in Your Head.
FM. In preparation for a possible live presentation.
It's not
of this,
possible. We better do it. They're paying
this,
us enough money to be there. Jeez.
Of this radio format, and also boopers for sale. Come on, place your order now.
Yes, write the weatherman at ineverAnswerEmail&can'ttype.net.
Yeah, okay.
I wanted to say it's
I had a question.
All of you together on the air.
I had a question for Monsignor Don.
I'm anonymous.
Oh, there's two of us.
Well, I wanted to know, what is it that the Cardinals do when they go into that little shack to vote on the Pope, where they all lock themselves in with the puffs of smoke? I mean, what's that all about, huh?
Immune spiritually.
They're probably deciding which old guy they can manipulate the best if he were to become Pope.
So you don't think it's just like a big circle jerk with an altar boy or something like that?
Probably
Let's not
not.
use language like that on this show.
Okay, will I go to hell for this?
That today?
Yes, you will go to hell and burn horribly.
Oh, never mind, I'm already in hell. I'm in Sacramento.
Especially if you commit suicide, you go to hell.
So, did you hear that Gene Scott committed suicide?
He did not.
He did, too.
How?
He shot himself.
No, that was Hunter S. Thompson.
That's right.
By the way, I actually saw Johnny Depp made up as Hunter S. Thompson prancing around on the playa a few years ago.
What's
it
the
actually
playa?
happened, and I saw him. I have a photograph of him.
How did you know
Well,
who
you see,
he
if
was
you're in
supposed
the
to
know, as an in the know hipster
dressed
kind
exactly
of
like
Bay
the
Arean,
role in Fear and
you'd
Loathing.
know what they mean by the playa. That's just so insulting to me as a person who doesn't even live here anymore, that I have to listen to some dumbass on this show talk about the playa as if I'm supposed to know what the hell you even mean. Some of this burning manage, which the initials BM certainly are good initials for that event.
Anonymous,
I'll say that.
Anonymous one, will you just shut up and get back to the next?
Yeah, the playa.
I
That's right.
get
You're
it.
supposed to know.
God can do anything.
You guys going down to the BM?
Yeah, we're going to the BM.
Going to the
We're gonna go on the playa.
God has limited himself again to flowing through us. It's according to the power that works in us.
God actually did a great service for us, showing how to use TV time in a very manner.
I actually saw Gene Scott dressed up as Dr. Gene Scott out on the playa.
Don't say hello.
Yeah, he had on about 7 pairs of sunglasses. He
There's a
was surrounded by a lot of shaved mechanical monkeys, all pretending to be members of the FCC.
Blah, blah, blah.
And smoke a cigar and stare reproachful at the camera for 5 minutes at a time. I thought that was great. The TV time was treated like it was almost dirt cheap. Luxury. I also have a tape of him when he was cut off. I had the last 45 minutes before the FCC pulled the plug, and he had this.
I've got that. I got that tape. You have that on tape? Me too.
I had the last his farewell. He was yelling. He was cut off in mid-sentence.
Yes, he says pull the switch on channel 30, and they cut him off. I love that
He was
tape.
counting. He was actually saying minutes instead of seconds. He said 5 minutes, 4. Happy to share that when I can get it.
Cut that other guy off. He just used another bad word. A
And
word
I
you
also
call
have
very
put
often
the
in high
tape
school, and we don't want to hear it on this show.
Am I boring you people?
But it's already covered completely, absolutely completely with dry markers, scribblings, but he's writing like...
Am I boring you people?
Expecting the audience to somehow make sense of
Am
all
I boring you people?
No, it's your turn now.
Do you have that Gene
I was
Scott
gonna drive
tape
Gene
that you
Scott.
can
Hey, how
put in
about
your
that widow
Teletour
Scott? What
box
a
collar?
bitch, huh?
How come, hey, Anonymous 1 and Anonymous 2, can you hear the callers all right? Because you seem to talk right over them without realizing they're talking.
I hear them
wondering.
perfectly.
I'm just wondering, all right. Then you're doing that intentionally. I see,
No.
okay.
I was trying to ask the caller who disappeared if he or she had that. I can't hear them, so I don't know if they're male or female. Had that Gene Scott tape that they could play on the air, but that person has Suicide Man or whoever it is disappeared.
And I was just being a cranky dumbass, calling our callers dumbass.
Anonymous 1, would you get out that email thing? It's like 1:30 and we have to get through some of these features.
Dumbass.
I think that you better give me a break from talking on this damn show and shut me up for a while,
Well,
and I'll come back on later.
Why is it up to him?
Yeah, how come you're alive and Gene Scott's dead? That's my question.
Give it to Anonymous 2 to read
If
that.
this guy would just cut me off, I wouldn't have to keep talking, you people.
Do what he asks. Well, what do you think this is, the Bernie Ward show or something?
Technology allows us to
BM show.
as it lights up with electrical activity.
I don't have it at hand, but I do have both of the incidents that I described.
Do you have them queuable? Can we hear them?
I love you.
I think this person is on tape.
Notion here that we, not God, are in effect creating our own response unwittingly, thus tricking ourselves into believing it is coming from elsewhere.
I believe that is coming from me, but...
A little known fact about Dr. Gene Scott is that he was sterile, and that's not a joke.
Sterile? Is he clean?
He was sterile, and he regretted that he could not have any children.
Dear Jesus.
It tore him apart.
Please, STD free.
All right, here's a feature. Do you have any kind of music there?
Do I have any what?
Well, yeah, but it's got lyrics in it, unfortunately. Here we go.
There's that four fingers again.
Welcome, intelligent beings, and thank you for listening to radio that will not lie to you. Yes, all up and down the frequencies, you can hear God referred to as if he existed. Dutiful lip service is paid everywhere to God, our cultural glue, as if there were no doubt. You will never hear a commercial station suggesting there is no God. Telling the truth is just not right for capitalism. Too many offended customers. But we're different here. We're only selling the truth. We're here to confirm your independent suspicions that there is no God, that truth is more useful than lies or self-deception, no matter what it is that happens to be true, and that there is no God in whose convenient assumption all these earthly lies are spread. We at It's All in Your Head, FM, think these beliefs do more harm than good by keeping us stupid, divided, and not responsible for our own lives. Oh Lord, if this is true, what will become of us? Nothing. Or something. But wherever we're going, it's entirely up to us and our own heads, within which it all is.
The concept that our conscious brains actually have receptors that both respond to prayer and also lead us to sense that a presence is with us at particular moments.
In another part of your brain.
Our medical technology allows us to track the area of the brain as it lights up with electrical activity.
We have, absolutely no idea
The notion here
of what's going on.
is that we, not God, are in effect creating our own response unwittingly, thus tricking ourselves into believing it is coming from elsewhere.
Why that is true.
The funny thing is that Americans' near-death experiences confirm our notion, our relatively optimistic notion that we're all going to heaven. But if you look at near-death experiences over 2,000 years of history, you find that most often in the past they were fearful experiences in which people experienced going to hell. And when they recovered from it, then they changed their lives and became good religious people. It seems to most Americans that we don't need to do that. Most of us think we're living just fine lives. And so we experience heaven when we have these experiences. I don't necessarily feel that there's anything unusual about these experiences. They could be a normal aspect of trauma. And indeed, people who take drugs or who meditate can have the feeling of being outside their body. There are perfectly good physiological and neurological reasons why we have these experiences. There is a street drug called ketamine that is famous for, also known as Special K, which is famous for allowing people to feel that they're out of their body and traveling to heaven.
And the other possibility is that it's something that really is not going to be explainable in the way that we understand physical explanation, that it really is kind of beyond us to get there. And I will...
You're saying forever?
I'm saying forever, yeah. It's so very difficult to conceive of. It's almost, for me, I've tried to think about it for many years, and I've talked to a lot of colleagues and stuff, and you never get close. Nobody's gotten close. You can read anything you want. There's nothing that's gotten close to making that translation. My hunch is I'm sort of sitting here waiting for a genius. It sounds kind of dumb, but we need somebody who is going to be able to get it. Beyond us to get there.
Weatherman, do you have an email address?
I believe that was given out earlier in the show.
Would you like me to give it out again?
Yeah, please give that email address out again.
You got a pen? It's long.
Okay, go ahead.
It's I never read email and I cannot type at. I'm sorry, it's Weatherman at I can't read email and I do not know how to type .net. We believe. Try it.
Okay, it'll go to you, huh?
Sorry, I misread it. I was looking through it first.
All right. So, are you still in the people business?
Why people have these experiences of a sense of a presence in the room.
Are you still hooking up for customers?
And I wouldn't have to
waste my
time talking to you all the time, and then I could spend more time spending 10% of my income on you when you don't seem to have a very good spending plan.
By the way, that's exactly what a booper costs if you're interested.
Very interested.
Presence of God or aliens or ghosts or lost loved ones that have died and come back to visit us, is that the left temporal lobe coordinates all the brain modules together into a sense of self.
Maybe even
moments of enlightenment and moments of ordinary mind.
More.
Walk too low. Walk too low. Walk too low. So often he has sought, like Icarus, to fly too high. And far below his idiot, the true survivor of his survival, and all the world in his behalf.
Now, I wonder how many of our listeners at home realize that that's actually a telephone call. Of course, we always know when it's a phone call and when it's not, but I always wonder how many people think that's something we'd play on this show.
We all feel like a single person. I don't have multiple people in me. I'm just one. And by messing that up, by bombarding the right temporal lobe, what Persinger does is he creates a sense of two selves in the brain. Now, the brain is not capable of sensing two selves, so it senses one self and another self in the room, another presence in the room.
Just get it. And of course, there are lots of religious people who think we don't have to get it.
Now, what that will be interpreted as depends on your culture and your experiences.
Just your brain is just there, and everything that you think is actually ethereal.
People 400 or 500 years ago experienced incubi, succubi, because they lived in a demon-haunted world.
But you're almost suggesting that the explanation is beyond science.
It's beyond, I think, the way we do science now. Yeah.
People 100 years ago experienced spirits and ghosts because they lived in a spirit-haunted world. The kind of world we live in is an alien-haunted world. We live in a world filled with X-Files and Star Trek and Star Wars and all these search for extraterrestrial intelligence. We're obsessed with the idea of alien intelligences. So, of course, we would interpret these anomalous experiences, these senses of presence, not as demons, but as aliens or gods. We've always believed in gods.
Even the most humane and compassionate of the monotheisms and polytheisms are complicit in this quiet and irrational authoritarianism. They proclaim us in full verbal, unforgettable line to be created sick and commanded to be well. They proclaim us in full Grovel's unforgettable line to be created sick and commanded to be well.
In the matters of religion and belief and meaning, the deepest things that come from the deepest part of our beings, we reach to symbol, we reach to poetry, we reach to art. to try to begin to articulate what those things are.
Let us have faith.
Time out. So what I think it'll work better as a mix, like especially it'd be nicer for radio, but also nicer on stage if these 3 or 4 boopers were panned in a way that we could hear them all in different places, because they kind of sound like they're all in the middle mostly.
10 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
10 o'clock and 2. Don, where's your booper? I mean, Anonymous.
It's Donimus. I think I should be in the middle then.
Well, but I think you over there at other Anonymous, your boopers could be like hard right and hard left for some of it, sometimes. Then we get more of the distinct booper separateness.
Well, I don't know what's going on now. Oh, there. All right, that's one in one side, one in the other. Wow, that's great.
Thanks. Okay, thanks for that timeout. Now back to It's All in Your Head.
Go back and forth. The life flow, the life force ebbs and flows, the Hasidic masters like to say. There's an energy of God, there's a life force that surges into you, but it comes and goes.
It was going so good, too, and then you had to start talking, and you just broke the momentum.
And there are totalitarian insinuations to back this up.
Yes, there is a reading of Kabbalah that understands it all literally, that sees the structure of the universe that I mentioned. The structure is called the 10 Sfirot, or the 10 primal numbers, the 10 manifestations of divine energy. It understands all of these things literally. In my book, A Guide to the Zohar, which is the longer version of the introduction to Matt's work, I try to spell out how this has to be understood as metaphor.
Its appeal should fail.
metaphoric understanding and literal understanding are not the same thing.
And so, memes for unself behavior actually do very well. Using memes, you can explain things that just don't make sense in terms of advantage to the genes. So, for example, birth control. Clearly, you're suppressing the ability of genes to pass themselves on. Or celibacy, or homosexual behavior. All these things can be explained much better in terms of the spread of memes.
Such analysis of behavior has led Susan Blackmore to a radical and controversial theory on the very nature of human beings.
Christians, for example, declare me redeemed by human sacrifice that occurred thousands of years before I was born. I did not ask for this human sacrifice. I would willingly have foregone it, but there it is. I'm claimed and saved whether I wish it or not. And if I refuse this unsolicited gift, well, there are still some vague mutterings about an eternity of torment for my ingratitude. This is somewhat worse than a Big Brother state. However, along with Islam and Christianity, Judaism does insist that some turgid and contradictory and sometimes evil and mad texts, obviously written by fairly unexceptional humans, are in fact the Word of God. I think that the indispensable condition of any intellectual liberty is the realization that there is no such thing.
The traditional Kabbalist doesn't know the distinction between them very well and understands that both the biblical text and also the text of the Zohar as being absolutely literally true. In a certain way, you have to say that Kabbalah is a form of medieval science, something like alchemy or astrology. And those, of course, were disproven by experimental science at the beginning of the 17th or 18th centuries and have been kind of relics of history ever since then.
When I realized that memes could account for why humans have such big brains, that was a really exciting moment for me, because it's a mystery why we have big brains. They're terribly expensive to produce and to run biologically, and they're much bigger than any other species on the planet. What are they for? And when I realized that I think they're there for the memes, the memes pushed the genes to produce these big brains. That was a very exciting idea, and I wanted to put out that idea and see whether scientists could do anything with it, whether it was useful, whether it was true, and that process is still going on.
Among the most profound philosophical problems that have ever faced our species are those of consciousness, self-consciousness, the problem of mind, self-identity. And it never occurred to me when I first proposed the idea of the meme, that the idea of the meme might even play a role in solving these ancient philosophical problems.
I think one of the scariest ideas to come out of all this is the thought that there's really no self in here running the show. After all, if the genes have created this body and the memes have constructed this mental world and this culture, there's no need for an extra thing called me inside who can choose which memes to have. The memes are competing and choosing each other. In that case, it looks like this sense of self is an illusion. I think it is. It's scary, but to me it's liberating.
So what is our future if this theory of memetics proves to be correct?
There's religious instinct, there's spiritual experiences, we have history behind us, we have civil codes, moral codes, we have all kinds of stuff that come at us from all different levels of consciousness. For me, you turn this around and these two things go directly together like the two sides of a
So
knife.
you're saying this could indeed come from God, but it would be reinforced, observed and reinforced through human experience.
Well, I think
Is that what you're saying?
you could put it that way, or there could be more of a dialogue, kind of what to do. And clearly we don't know what to do yet because this world's a mess. So it's not like there's one answer that's the right answer and we just haven't, if we all just went to it, we'd be okay.
One question. What is the origin of the moral sentiments? So they evolved through natural forces and culture and history, or God implemented,
Why can't
put
it
them
be
in
both?
How can it be both?
How can it not be both?
Unless you wanted to say the forces of history and nature is God's way of doing it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't sort of add. God works in.
It doesn't add anything. It just
Why not?
It just adds a word to the system.
No,
but
I don't agree. I think it adds an element of our humility. I think it adds an element of the unknown that we, no matter what, we don't know.
I think you have to remember that the entire landmass of Australia is a sacred place, and not just the landmass, the sea. And this stems from the Aboriginal concept of Jakirpa, or dreaming. And the Jakirpa is the Aboriginal creation stories or myths. And in the dream time, there was a void. And out of this void came the ancestors. And they made a voyage across the void. And as they moved, the world, as we know it, sprang up behind them. If they lay down, their body might have made a valley. If they wept, their tears made a waterfall. And when they had finished creating the world, some of them remained on earth as sacred rocks or sacred trees. Others went up into the sky, where they stayed as constellations, and others sank back into the earth. And all over Australia, there are the dreaming tracks of the Chingari, or these ancestral beings. And that is why the land is so sacred.
And as I understand it, dream time isn't confined to creation, the beginning of it all. It goes on and takes place.
Dreamtime is when Aboriginal people have a ceremony, they will reenact the Dreamtime story. So they will go into the past and mingle with the ancestors during that ceremony. It's kind of timeless. It's the past, comes into the present and goes into and ensures the future.
You're listening to It's All in Your Head FM. We're all Mohammeds now. This is Anonymous 3 signing off of this broadcast. Goodbye, and keep listening.
You will believe.
That's right.
Dr. Edwards, what do you make of this absolutist position that says, this is the revealed word of God and everything else is wrong?
Many African peoples use different kinds of rituals involving blood, involving, for instance, the sacrifice of a sheep. A Roman Catholic archbishop in South Africa recently suggested that Christian services should incorporate a ritual like this, that they might be prepared to accept the idea of blood sacrifice, which is so extensively justified in the Old Testament, because the people are very comfortable with this, and this ignited all sorts of objections.
Yes, and in fact, they're going to start with the Pope next week.
Hey, you signed off. Come on.
Yeah, that was not cool.
Yeah.
You're signed off.
Give your word. For God's sake, where's your integrity, your morality, your conscience? Where's
What happened? Our chief anonymous just left the room to have a frappuccino, and I look, okay, good. I'm just left stuck here
With the mic on.
With the mic on, and something just.
No, I'm done. I'm done. It's all Mark's show now.
All right. well,
All
I think
Mark's show now.
That's good because I've been wanting to play this little song I have here. That's it's called. It's
It's called "It's All in Your Ood."
All right, this is.
The levels have been pretty good, but just a hair loud.
Oh well, that's
So
good.
I want to just keep you at 0 and have you do all the level changing, if possible.
Isn't that what you were
But
doing?
you aren't doing quite enough, so I have to lower it a little.
I want some fun
It's not
things to
bad.
happen.
It's not bad.
Okay. Well, it's probably time for something fun to happen.
I want some fun things to happen.
Well,
Sorry about having to switch out these cables while you're doing your radio show.
that's rough.
I'll try to be quiet about it as I plug and
Yeah.
unplug things.
All right, well, maybe something fun will happen.
Religion is too serious. I want to be happy. I want to laugh.
Oh, dear. Well, it's nice that things have kind of quieted down here. It's all in your head. I guess it's all just in my head now.
Well, go ahead and laugh. God has a sense of humor.
Apparently. That's what we hope.
That's why they cut his throat open today.
In the Vatican.
Jesus, you're too funny. We're going to have to just slit your throat.
Let's show him, gang.
This little bug was made by God. He's polka dots and stripes. He has green horns and glassy eyes and legs that look like pipes.
Yes, God has a sense of humor. Let's all laugh while we can. A hearty laugh, a jolly laugh is good for beast and man.
I woke up all disgruntled. I could not face the day. I glanced into my mirror, and this I had to say.
Yes, God has a sense of humor. Let's all laugh while we can. A hearty laugh, a jolly laugh is good for beast and man.
It's fun when those beasts laugh, isn't it?
Looking at giraffes, I find you'd have to use a mop to swab a lengthy throat like that from bottom to the top.
Yes, God has a sense of humor. Let's all laugh while we can. A hearty laugh, a jolly laugh is good for beast and man.
Obviously, in a world where there are competing revelations and where the infallibility of revelation has been questioned, it's very difficult to take such a confident stand, honestly and intelligently, as Dr. Land did.
I wish I could believe.
Well, another thing I think it's important to be clear on is that the moral principles of a particular religion may be true from the standpoint of someone who's secular, but for different reasons than merely the fact that they were promulgated by God.
I wish I could believe.
On the other hand, I think what Dr. Land assumes is basically right, that if we are going to have knowledge about God at all, it is going to be knowledge that God gives of himself. It isn't going to be knowledge that we make up. And so we're in a very sort of precarious position at the moment, because on the one hand, we owe our knowledge of God to his revelation, but on the other...
You can reject the Christian or Jewish or Muslim or Buddhist arguments about creation and about the existence of God, but yet buy in almost entirely to their moral conception, but not necessarily because you think it's divinely inspired, but just because there's a lot of wisdom inherent in these belief systems.
There were long, drawn-out debates.
Scripture is not a driving test.
I sure do.
Scripture is not a driving test.
What are we stopping on this lonely road for?
Scripture is not a driving test.
He brought Jonah from the belly of the...
They're seeing this as, the technical word is syncretism, that is merging Christianity with older pagan ideas. And often that's not it. What people are doing is taking ideas from the New Testament in a much more direct and literal way that people in the West have done in a very long time. Just to take an example.
Thinking about religion is kind of counterintuitive. It's almost something you're not supposed to do.
This is It's All in Your Head, FM. Over the Edge, KPFA in Berkeley.
Responsible, receptive, reusable.
KPFB in Berkeley and KFCF in Fresno.
This is the Universal Media Network.
And KCFR in Chico.
We believe, we believe, believe, we believe, we believe, we believe.
For many people, particularly in this country, thinking about religion is kind of counterintuitive. It's
mimetic evolution is going faster and faster. The copying apparatus, the internet, the computers are improving faster and faster. And the 21st century is going to be a massive mimetic explosion.
I think we're going to hear a great deal more about memes in the 21st century.
You can go with them, you can play with them, you can affect them, but no way are we, the humans, going to be the great controllers of the next century.
Yes, good hello. Good hello to Don and Mark. I won't say hello to the weatherman because I hear he shot himself, unfortunately. I just wanted to say that I'm sitting here actually watching Dr. Gene Scott while I'm listening to the program, and they flashed his 1-800 number up onto the screen, and I just wanted to know if I could give out Dr. Gene Scott's 1-800 number so that all your listeners can call and offer their condolences. The number is 1-800-338-3030. 800-338-3030.
If you're going to play higher intelligence stage, put on some motherfucking ketamine entities.
Okay, let's talk about the 21st century. Some people have said that the 20th century was the century of physics. We have the atomic bomb, lasers, transistors, the internet, computers, TV, microwave, radio, the electric revolution, the nuclear revolution, the 20th century. But the 21st century, they say, will be the century of biology. That will be unraveling the human genome and unraveling the family tree, the evolutionary tree, as seen in the DNA molecule. That we are 30% equivalent to fungus at the DNA level. We are 98.6% equivalent to chimpanzees at the molecular level.
In many of the Pentecostal churches, concepts like dreams, trances, and visions are taken very, very seriously. Well, where are they getting this nonsense from? Well, read the New Testament sometime. Christianity came to Europe because St. Paul had a dream. He had a vision in a dream. People in, say, an African church or an Asian church read that, and what message are they meant to get? Well, people are meant to get visions from God in dreams. If Western liberals don't get visions in dreams, then that's their problem.
Lots of smart people spent lots of time thinking these things through.
It's just product by product by product. We just try to make sure that everything appeals to that, appetite.
So this is traditional marketing. I mean, you're figuring out how to make Christianity cool. And doesn't this seem sort of problematic to you?
I don't know why it's problematic. I think that the God who created the universe, and if he put all this amazing stuff together, as I sit here and look out the window, these trees, the sky is pretty cool. Well, he's done a pretty good job of appealing to me and saying, well, you're kind of cool, I'd like to find out more about you. Then we came along, the Christian world here in the last, 50 years, and said, well, we'll throw some together and hopefully it'll sell. That's completely irrational to somebody who believes that God expects the best from us. If God wants us to be the best and do the best, then our stuff should be far superior than to anything MTV's doing or Viacom, Disney, anybody's doing. We should be totally tapped in to the most creative, amazing work that anybody's ever seen. So no, I think it stands right in line with what we believe.
I thought Christianity was supposed to offer sort of, an alternative to consumer capitalism and the whole world of consumption. And this sort of seems like you're lumping Jesus in with Nike and Old Navy and Pepsi.
Well, I would be the first to say that. If you've ever been to the Christian Booksellers Association convention, you're going to see Jesus everywhere. Jesus floor mats, Jesus mugs. And I agree. I think we've over-marketed him. But I'm talking about content that's going to change people's lives. Now, here's my option. I can just throw it out there and make it look, paper bag over the cover. Who cares what the cover looks like? And put it on a shelf next to Twist magazine and say, go ahead, kids, pick which one you want.
There was a time for this law, but not anymore. See, this is our time to dance. It is our way of celebrating life. It's the way it was in the beginning. It's the way it's always been. It's the way it should be now.
I said earlier that I don't think humans are the culmination of evolution. There will be more intelligent creatures, perhaps, in the far future. And it's no obvious that the important scientific questions are all, as it were, matched to the capacity of human brains. And so what we can understand in our human science may be only a tiny fraction of what there is to be understood. And I think the key question is how much of the bedrock nature of reality is within the capacity of human brains. And I think the key question is how much of the bedrock nature of reality is within the capacity of human brains.
And they're going to pick Twist. And they're going to learn how to give oral sex to their boyfriend at age 14. And they're going to learn how to take contraceptives at age 14. And their lives are going to slowly degrade. And I, as a believer, can't allow that. As somebody who believes that there's another way, that there's a faith-based way that will change their lives and make their lives so much better. I would be completely remiss if I didn't do all I could to try and help better their lives.
It was dogmatism that split us in the first place in the 16th century. It's dogmatism, this whole notion that there is a truth that is the truth, that is the eternal truth. And the unquestionable truth. Means that whatever the Holy Spirit...
Well, you don't have an answer. Well, you don't have an answer.
What's very curious about this period of time is you've got this mixture of things. You have, on the one hand, this hunger for meaning, embracing meaning. Yet you have a whole movement in our culture that's rejecting even the possibility of meaning. This is called postmodernism. The idea that not only do we have our individual stories, but there's nothing but stories. There is no truth, ultimately. There are just fabricated stories, and we create our own realities by the stories that we tell ourselves in our cultures.
That we're in this realm when we begin to talk about those. And if we take the symbols and don't acknowledge that they're symbols, then we get into this trouble.
If we try to make them facts, you mean?
The Office of Miran, a market research firm, is in the Cairo suburb of Heliopolis, not far from President Mubarak's residence. The staff there work for major American clients like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola. They're young, bright, modern, and religious.
Sometimes especially when I worked with the Middle East Times, sometimes stories come up that maybe I don't feel that I want to cover them because they go against my religion. For instance, bars and alcoholic drinks, don't remember what the issue was, at a certain hotel, and I refused to cover it because alcoholic drinks are forbidden in Islam, so I would not want to approach it. We're all trying. I think this generation is trying to go back to the real Islam as God has sent it.
She comes down on the side of theocracy.
I would rather we have an Islamic government because basically Islam is a way to organize life. I believe in any country which practices Islamic teachings as God had sent it down to us, we wouldn't have any problems really.
ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب
Islam. 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 The 5 pillars were revealed to the Prophet Muhammad in the Arabian desert 600 years after the birth of Christ.
Just how holy is the Holy Land?
recorded in the Quran.
Just how holy is the Holy Land?
Now, a fifth of the world's human beings are Muslims.
Just how holy is the Holy Land?
Islam literally means surrender, to lie down in peace before the will of Allah, the one God. But the intent of Islam is to create justice in this world.
It is forbidden or haram to go to the movies. It is haram to listen to music. It is haram for unmarried men and women to meet in public. It is, of course, haram to drink alcohol. Inside Riyadh city limits, it's even haram to go to coffee houses and smoke the traditional Arab shisha, the water pipe, hubbly bubble.
To unify the temporal and the spiritual.
But God says, get in the way of God. Those enemies and seek to be killed for my sake, I will grant you something called Shahada.
Do not think those that die for God are really dead.
Become martyrs.
But rather they live in the shadow of God.
Martyrdom is what you want. Do the effort, clean your intention, go forward, never look backwards.
In the paradise of Eden.
Make sure you have nothing left behind you to think about or to cry for.
Saudi Arabia granted several dozen relatives of suicide attackers a free trip to Mecca for the annual pilgrimage.
And fight for the name of Allah.
The moment where this tough talk crosses over into a commitment to action is a key to the mystery. But it's impossible to document the role of the Sheikh and other radical preachers in taking acolytes over the threshold from theory into action.
Dr. Sakud has formulated a character profile of a suicide attacker. He described their act as positive suicide. Suicide for the common good. He said anger fuels the motivation. Martyrs are commemorated on many of Gaza's street corners. Their portraits have been etched on walls and placed on billboards. Dr. Ryan believes Western secular society cannot comprehend the religious motivation behind suicide attacks nor the promised salvation in paradise. The strangers, Canada, USA, France, Britain, have ceased to focus on the unknown, the mysterious, because they do not believe in God. Europe stopped believing in God, so why should I speak in our language? I will speak in their terms. I have land and the paradise of Eden. I have Palestine. My land is occupied, and I'm trying to liberate it.
United 93, 350, record. United 93, that traffic for you is 1 o'clock, 12 miles eastbound 370.
To me, the idea of standing on the ledge of the 80th floor of a high-rise and look at a woman or a friend and hold hands and say, we are going to like fly down and die together now holding hands.
And the Lord saw the tower which the children of men builded, and he was displeased, saying to himself,
This thing is not good.
Negative contact, we're looking United 93. Somebody call Cleveland. United 93, verify 350. United 93, verify your flight level 350. United 93, verify your level of 350. United 93, Cleveland. United 93, Cleveland. United 93, the Air Cleveland Center, I got please. United 1523, did you hear your company, did you hear some interference on the frequency here a couple of minutes ago, screaming? Yes, I did, 797, and we couldn't tell what it was either.
This thing is not good.
It's something that is so beyond my courage. You know how many times I have actually visualized myself in that situation since that happened, and I can't even imagine how to do that.
Okay. United 93, Cleveland, if you hear the satellite then.
I mean, I'm sure that there is so many religious people asking themselves questions. Did they hear a voice? Did they hear a calling? Did they see a beautiful garden with rivers and lakes down there? Was their pain so much that some device that we don't know about that we have inside ourselves, some spiritual device, just triggered on, and all of a sudden it was heaven?
Other transmission. American 1060, you heard that also? Yes, sir, twice. We heard that also, thanks. I just wanted to confirm there wasn't some interference. Is that 956, man? I was just answering your call. We did hear that yelling, too.
and he was displeased, saying to himself,
This thing is not good.
Yeah, we're just trying to figure out what's going on. They got some pieces down. They have a ball board. So it's calling Cleveland Center, you're unreadable. Say again slowly. Did you hear the transmission where the airplane that said he had a bomb on board? Say again. Was that United 93? That transmission he said was unreasonable. It sounded like someone said they have a bomb on board. That's what we thought. We just we didn't get it clear. Is that United 93 calling?
Already before they jumped, and they were just jumping into something beautiful. Because I tell you, I could not do it. Something special must have been going on. Because a lot of them jumped.
Sector 956, that aircraft we believe was transmitting at 12 o'clock, 5 miles, turn left heading 225, I'll get you away from him. Okay.
One of the most
impossible and memorable images of that day were people leaping out of the windows, being forced out by the fire behind them, driving them, herding them out the windows, and to see that image of two people, co-workers, strangers. I had no idea, but that not knowing made it all the more poignant, for reaching out for somebody's hand to take your last step, that you would end your life in the hands of a stranger, plummeting thousands of feet to your death.
He's climbing, so I want to keep everybody away from him. Okay, I think we got him in sight.
Up to my soul heaven thrown.
I think that the power of that image is it doesn't give an answer.
Well, the 1989 traffic views at 11 o'clock and 15 miles southbound. 41 timing looks like he's turning east while heading 360.
It takes us in two opposing directions.
United 93 calling.
On the one hand, we are all alone at the end. Life is fleeting. There's no one to help us when we face the abyss. And there wasn't. No one came for that. And on the other hand, they reached for each other. They said that in that moment when they're facing the absolute ultimate, there are other human beings to reach out, to be there, to help them.
The bomb on board, go ahead. We led to 956, did you understand that transmission? Affirmative, he said there was a bomb on board. And that was all you got out of it also? Affirmative. 93, go ahead. That aircraft you can't get a hold of, has he turned to the east now? He's just turned to the east also.
To help us.
United 93, you're here at Cleveland Center. Okay, American 10-6 and Executive 956, we just lost the target on that aircraft. Okay, 956, we had a visual on him, just stand by. Do you have a visual on him now? We did, but we lost him in the turn. You can make a turn back to 220 heading, let me know if you can see him. Yeah, he's still there, we got him for 956. He's still there, northwest of you, about 25 miles? Affirmative for 956. Executive 956, fighting 180. Hey, we're making a turn for 956. He appears to be heading right towards us. American 1060, do you see anybody northwest of you? Can you see back that far there? All right, we're looking now, sir. United 93, Cleveland, do you still hear the center? United 93, do you still hear Cleveland? United 93, United 903, do you hear Cleveland?
You infect my world with your presence.
United 93, United 93, Cleveland. United 93, United 93, you hear Cleveland Center.
Infidel. Do you see any activity on your right side, smoke or anything like that?
Negative, we're searching. Yeah, we do have a smoke puff now at about, probably 2 o'clock. It appears to be just a dark cloud like a puff of black smoke.
Well, I mean, I think that both Christianity and Islam provide us with a very strong conception of life after death. Both of them have strong notions of heaven and hell, and both are proselytizing religions. Judaism, on the other hand, which has not very often been a proselytizing religion, has very weak forms of life after death and very weak forms of heaven and hell. So I think that the notion of al-Jannah and things that are in Islam, as well as the notions of heaven and hell in Christianity, are in those religions because they want to convert people to the body of the faithful and make them live moral lives.
What my soul have enthralled, one moment in heaven,
How will it happen without catalysts, without individuals actually saying, the way Martin Luther did, the way John Calvin did, the way, various people in various faiths have done, that there is a problem here, and we need to at least bring it to light, if not shed some heat on it as well.
And also technology, of course, the fact that we have access to information.
Precisely, Penny. We live in a very different context than people lived 200 and 300 years ago when Christianity and Judaism underwent their reformations. So who's to say how this is going to happen? Bottom line is, a liberal alternative to mainstream Islam needs to be brought to the fore, however it happens, so that people know, Muslims in particular, know there is more than one way to reconcile your faith with your integrity.
Most Christians would say that Jews and Christians believe in the same God. And they believe in the same God. They have different faiths. But it's only Muslims and latter-day Christians and Jews that would include Muslims in that. Orthodox Jews would not include Muslims. And so, we're not the ones who have changed. We're the ones who have the traditional faith.
But isn't the flaw in this argument that you're defining God in terms used by God's followers? And just because those followers stress different things, just because they choose to stress certain characteristics, doesn't take away from God's ultimately unknowable nature, his oneness. And, I come back to the same thing. In the end, it's the same God, isn't it?
No, it isn't the same God. Our presupposition and the presupposition of the Christian faith for most of its history has been that the prophets and the writers of the Old Testament and the apostles of the New Testament were divinely inspired, and that what they wrote was God's revelation to them in a way that Muhammad is not divinely inspired. Muhammad is not the same as Jesus. He's not the same as Paul. He's not the same as Peter. He's not the same as Jeremiah. He's not the same as Isaiah.
But isn't there a huge arrogance in all this that God is beyond definition, beyond pigeonholing and describing fully? Any definitions are provisional, and to say someone else's understanding of God is simply wrong could be a spiritual arrogance.
Well, only from those who are relativists. I'm not a relativist. I'm an absolutist. I believe that Jesus Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now, if I am a follower of Jesus Christ, who am I to say that I'm not going to put myself under the authority of the teaching of Jesus Christ? It's not arrogance. It's submission to the lordship of Jesus Christ. I know that in a modern relativist, syncretistic age, the exclusive claims of traditional Christian faith jar the ear. But that doesn't make them wrong for those who are loyal followers of Jesus Christ.
Those who say it can't be reconciled may very well be right. I actually grant the possibility that my same-sex relationship may not be acceptable in the eyes of God. But as we know from Islam, that only God knows what true faith is, and therefore only God has the power to punish disbelief. In the meantime, those who ask me to reconcile these two things, I turn the tables on them and ask them to reconcile something. Since the Quran is very explicit that God has deliberately designed the world's breathtaking multiplicity, and that God creates whom he wills, how do they reconcile those statements with their utter condemnation of homosexuality? My point is quite simple. Not to say that I am right, but I do want to know why my detractors believe they are so right. If we are more interested in knowing where God might stand than in where we do stand, I think there's lots of room for healthy debate and discussion on this one.
He encourages suicide attacks with regular demonstrations.
Dr. Edwards, what do you make of this absolutist position that says, this is the revealed word of God and everything else is wrong?
Suicide brigades often march in such protests where they have staged mock suicide attacks.
I'll come
al-Qaeda is trying to do two things. They're trying to issue a wake-up call to Muslims saying, look, your entire religion and the Ummah, the Islamic community, is under threat, and therefore it's your duty as a Muslim to rise up and resist this.
Had I grown up in a Muslim country, I'd probably be an atheist in my heart. It's because I live in this corner of the world, where I can think, dispute, and delve further into any topic, that I've learned why I shouldn't give up on Islam just yet.
And they're also trying to strike a blow of revenge.
On my orders, the United States military has begun strikes.
He said Hamas discourages married men like Mazen from becoming martyrs. But, says Rentizi, their desire to commit suicide attacks is too strong.
After so much exploring, my personal interpretation of the Quran leads me to three recurring messages. First, only God knows fully the truth of anything. Second, God alone can punish unbelievers, which makes sense, given that only God knows what true belief is. And considering the Quran's mountain range of moods, it really would take the Almighty to know how it all hangs together. Human beings must warn against corrupt practices, but that's all we can do to encourage piety. Warn. Third, our resulting humility sets us free to ponder God's will without any obligation to toe a dictated line. Quote, "Let there be no compulsion in religion," states a voice in chapter 2 of the Quran. Quote, "Unto you your religion, unto me my religion," echoes another voice in chapter 109. And in between there is this, quote, "If God had pleased, he would have made you all one people, but he has done otherwise. Ain't that the truth?" If God had pleased, he would have made you all one people, but he has done otherwise. Ain't that the truth?
You infect my world with your presence.
If our justification for being there is that God sent us, then the Arab justification, the Islamic justification, is that the Quran has said that any land to which the Quran spread is inalienable. It's Dar al-Islam. That therefore means that we are in a permanent religious quarrel. It's our absolute against their absolute. If you are in a religious quarrel, you cannot compromise. Now, so long as we're going to insist that we have a religious right to the land of Israel, then even Jimmy Carter will tell us that that isn't what his Southern Baptist teaching taught him. The Jews have a religious right to the land of Israel, provided they turn Christian.
Why is it so difficult to draw Muslims into the streets to demonstrate massive human rights abuses that are happening against other Muslims, and never mind Jews and Christians, in the name of our God? We are so much more ready to pour into the streets when it is our civil rights that appear to be violated. And by the way, I think that the impending French law against hijabs, kippah, etc. is a bad law. I completely respect and support the right of these women. Thank God they're leading the fight against such a law. But will they also lead the fight against the stoning of women in the world of Islam, against murder, against torture, against slavery in countries that are ruled by Islamist regimes? So I think there's a lot of double standards here that we Muslims have to own up to. And why?
Education is a critical part of revolutionary Islam. Around the Muslim world, it's in the schools, or madrasas, that Islamist politics are inculcated in young minds. Very young minds. At the Saladin Mosque in a fashionable section of Cairo, 5-year-olds are learning what 5-year-olds usually learn, the alphabet and how to count. They are also learning the Quran. Memorizing Quran is the more accurate term. Today, the children are memorizing a particular surah or verse. I asked the teacher to explain what the kids were memorizing.
Surah Al-Falaq is for protection from curses, because the Prophet Muhammad was cursed by the Jews several times. The worst was when they wrote a curse on paper, tied it in knots, and threw it in a well.
If Jesus, then why shame?
Blood name of Nazareth is the blood name, the blood name, the blood name, the blood name comes out!
We must understand that in the Islamic world, and indeed in other third world countries, Hindus and perhaps Buddhists, etc., religion is a very important part of the psyche about the identity of the person, much more than it is in the West, where we have a much wider secular space than we have in the Muslim countries. Therefore, religious symbols and symbolism are very powerful, and it can easily politicize. So you can have these are so-called radical Muslims who can use symbols and use the word jihad and fatwa, etc., and can work up masses.
Now, the recruiter you spoke to tells suicide bombers that they will be rewarded in paradise.
Everyone seems to focus on the 72 virgins that the Shaheed, the martyr, will be given once he gets to paradise. I'm not quite sure what happens to the female suicide bombers, but in fact there are many other rewards, and I think one of the most significant ones is that the ideology, or if you will, the religious fundamentalism preaches that 70 members of the suicide bombers will get a free ticket, an automatic absolution of any sins, and they will automatically go to paradise. So the suicide bomber can look forward to this luxurious, wonderful life of sexual ecstasy, surrounded by brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins and nephews, all of which he knows that because of his actions, they're guaranteed to make it to paradise. So you have a replication, if you will, of the Arab family, the extended family in paradise. And then when you hear them describe the kind of world they're going to be in, rivers flowing of non-alcoholic wine, or of milk and honey and fruit juice and water and so forth, you begin to realize that what they're describing is the idea of what paradise would be for a desert or nomadic people.
Quite frankly, I think at the end of the day, it is politically correct and safe, physically and otherwise, to be protesting something that comes out of a Western country, whether it's France, whether it's America, but politically unsafe and physically unsafe within our own communities in Muslim, in Muslim communities, to be protesting our own violations of human rights.
They're told in religious language, and enter with peace and tranquility, because you're one step away from going to paradise, that you're about to carry out God's mission. And so there are reports of suicide bombers observed just before they hit the switch with a big smile on their face. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard reports of that sort. And one can imagine that if you really submit to the ideology, that you may well convince yourself that you're about to take the trip of your life.
It's a small world after all. It's a small world after all.
And let us not continue that intimidation. We've got to step up to the plate as individual Muslims and say enough is enough. I'm taking back my faith.
Islam.
the vast majority that I came across didn't question whether the Quran is as pristine, as untouched as the effigy burners would have us believe. They merely tried to explain away the vitriolic anger against Rushdie. And this came, by the way, these commentaries came not just from Muslims, but from liberal non-Muslims who felt the need to just explain what's going on as opposed to actually ask tough questions about it. And I would like to believe that, 12, 15 years later, we're in a different society. Are we? It remains to be seen. And I can tell you that I'm hearing very private comments from scholars and academics who are thanking me for, reminding Muslims of our lost tradition of ijtihad. And then I ask if they will publicly go with their endorsements, and that's when the hesitation begins. Why? What is everyone so afraid of? Have some guts.
It's certainly true that people are devout in the Islamic world. Religion means something to them in a way that it doesn't in much of the secular West. And therefore, using the language and the imagery of Islam, to take an example, has a resonance.
What is everyone so afraid of? Why? Why? What is everyone so afraid of? Have some guts.
Well, I guess it's just about time for Listener's Corner. Good hello.
All in Your Head FM. This is Over the Edge, and now we present Anonymous 2 with some listener mail. Is that right?
Yes, perhaps something a little more cheerful in the background would be really a much more appropriate for this segment.
All right. Your word is my command.
Thank you. Good hello, and welcome to Listener's Corner of It's All in Your Head. A regular listener to the Over the Edge, It's All in Your Head series writes into us with the following question. Dear Negativland, ever since Negativland's 1997 release of Dyspepsy, I've been searching for a copy of Intelligence is Temporary, published in 1984 by Howland Books. I haven't been able to find one scrap of evidence as to its existence, including an ISBN number or even information about the apparent publisher. Would you mind bringing me up to speed on this work, i.e. whether it actually exists or not? It would be greatly appreciated. Regards, Raleigh G. Zimmerman. Okay, now let's see. We're going to skip the initial reply here that was from Don Joyce because it got a little too personal to be read on the air like this, but the inquiry was passed along to a Mrs. Grace Readout of the out-of-print division of Howland Press, and this is her response. Dear Mr. Zimmerman, your inquiry was passed along to me. Yes, the book Intelligence is Temporary has been withdrawn since 1951 due to lack of sales, which is a shame because it so elegantly summarized one of the greatest unstated delusions modern humanity suffers from, namely that intelligence is a cumulative, constantly progressing phenomenon in human affairs, while, in actuality, our conclusions on almost anything can only be called intelligence for relatively short periods of human history, and then it disappears into the stupidity bin of history forever. In other words, the only thing we now know to be a constant in human thinking is the apparent inevitable fact that we are bound to be stupid a lot of the time, and this goes for any time. During all those historical periods of time in which we were absolutely wrong about something, everyone thought they were perfectly right, just as we do now about virtually everything. Eventually, in any given area of thought, we apparently do come around to being right. The Earth apparently does go around the sun, for instance. But the prevailing intelligence that said it didn't for so long was just as right then as we think we are now about other things. So, Intelligence is a tricky business at any given point in time and cannot be trusted completely if we are to learn anything from the past. Well, that's sort of the gist of the book as I remember it, but I could be wrong because I wasn't able to finish it, and during the period of time I was using it for bedtime reading, I was also using what I eventually learned was a dangerous nightly dosage of sleeping medication and would get quite groggy while attempting to read it, often having to slap myself practically silly to stay awake for just one more page. Around that time, I also stupidly set my own bedroom on fire, which resulted in destroying my own copy, so I'm not even able to pass that along to you. By the way, Dr. Norway was heartbroken that nobody bought his book and has given up writing for the public. As you may have noticed, he is now president of One World Advertising and devoting his remaining years to promoting more intelligence in advertising. Hope this helps. If you'd like a full catalog listing all of our releases, just let me know. Sincerely yours, Grace Readout, Out of Print Division, Howland Press, Howland Island. Well, there was a reply to that. Dear Mrs. Readout and Negativland, too bad about the book being withdrawn. Now, this is from Raleigh Zimmerman. Too bad about the book being withdrawn. It sounds like an interesting read. Its primary thesis all sounds strikingly familiar to that of the conflict between reality, what we observe, and deep theory, what apparently explains it, such as the existence of God or subatomic particles, etc. I'd like to believe in realism, but it is indeed a bit tricky when one considers man's previous attempts at explaining the nature of reality, i.e. who's correct, a dead Navajo describing the world in terms of spirits and gods, or Schrödinger, his cat, and his famous wave equation. Well, maybe both. Such philosophical issues could be narrated upon for hours, so I'll set this one aside for now and get back to the original purpose of my inquiry. If Dr. Norway is still alive and well, which I trust he is, might he have a copy of the book left? If so, he would probably be delighted to hear that he has a potential buyer for his work. Please pass this along to him if it wouldn't be too much trouble. In addition, I'm interested in a full catalog listing all of your out-of-print books. I've been known to spend significant increments of time standing over a copying machine reproducing out-of-print work, so it wouldn't be too much trouble if a spare copy were to be located and a loan system arranged. Regards, Raleigh. Well, of course, there was another reply to this. This one is from, actually directly from a member of Negativland, from Don. And it says, Dear Raleigh, yes, it's a shame when such valuable and timeless insights into the nature of reality are forced in the mistake box just because of the whims of a quick-fist commercial market ruled by cheap sensationalism. You are quite right that his thesis reverberates in sympathy with many of the unsuspected anomalies at the quantum foundation of reality, which itself is one of the best examples of how, to quote a bunch of comedians, everything you know is wrong. Dr. Norway informs me that after his treatise went out of print, he was so disgusted with America that he destroyed all his own copies because they caused him such pain and resentment to look at. And Grace Readout informs me that she was a bit hasty in her offer and had forgotten, probably the medication again, that the Howland Press out-of-print list went out of print in 1972. And since many, many Howland Press publications have continued going out of print since then, she also destroyed all existing copies of that list somewhere around 1976, as it was forever after going to be completely out of date. At any rate, it seems we have a situation where all existing copies of Intelligence is Temporary that we know of are, ironically, all gone. You might try used bookstores or science fiction flea markets, but frankly, I don't hold out much hope since only 6 copies were ever sold, and those were mostly in South and Central America, where Dr. Norway is better known because of his famed whole parrot recipes, as well as that big lawsuit against him over in the infested feather food poisoning, which made all the papers down there. If there's any other way we can be of help, please don't hesitate to let us know. Sincerely, Don Joyce, Negativland. Dear Mr. Joyce, although pride of ownership can be a fine thing, I recently didn't purchase a physical copy of the ABCs of Anarchism. Rather, I opted for the free version offered by the Kazaa file-sharing networks in MP3 format. Long story short, I missed out on all the artwork, and in addition, I'm curious if you offered any further suggested reading in the liner notes. If so, please forward. Thanks, Raleigh Zimmerman. Well, there was one more final reply. Nice to hear from you again, Mr. Zimmerman. Our CD version of the ABCs of Anarchism contained extensive artwork and an engrossing short story that would make any preschooler proud, although it was actually designed by an adult. It also contained a free coupon to get one of our many overstocked copies of Dr. Oswald Norway's book, Intelligence is Temporary, completely free of charge. That's all I can think of, which you might have missed by going for the lesser quality audio of a download. Sincerely yours, Don Joyce, Negativland. And this has been the Listener's Corner here on It's All in Your Head, FM. The majority of Americans said the number one reason they believe in God is the good design and complexity of the universe, very similar to the answer Fuzz gave. But when you ask them, why do you think other people believe in God, here it gets interesting. The good design of the universe argument drops way down to sixth place. Shooting up to number one is emotional need and comfort, whereas when you ask people why they believe, emotional need and comfort is way down on the list. So what we have here is an intellectual versus emotional difference in why people believe.
We are still victimized by a certain kind of culture based on the charisma.
Most of us think that we come to our beliefs, all of our beliefs, not just religious beliefs, but political beliefs and so forth, for rational reasons.
The Savior, the Redeemer, the one-man show, the one party, the one opinion. On the charisma.
But as we feel we have to give logical arguments and rational reasons for why we believe. But we know that other people have not arrived at their beliefs for those reasons. And in actual fact, we all arrive at our beliefs for other reasons, usually other than intellectual reasons. So we attribute then to other people motives different from our own.
The problem with this view, which is very popular in certain circles, is that it is profoundly relativistic and ultimately nihilistic.
That every single human being on the earth should solicit as much caring from yourself as much as you care for your mother. And that, for example, is the story behind the crucifixion.
Leaves you all alone with just a story.
That 90 to 95% of Americans who believe in God, you can break that down. Not everybody believes in the Judeo-Christian God. There's actually a sizable minority who believe in sort of a higher spirit of some generic kind, not necessarily a personal being. And also a lot of scientists, when they use the word God, and we should clarify that Einstein did not believe in a personal God, and neither did Stephen Hawking. When they say God, what they mean is this reverence and awe for the cosmos or the laws of nature. And when Stephen Hawking says we'll know the mind of God, he doesn't mean the Judeo-Christian personal God who we can pray to. He means the cosmos as a whole. And to me, what really turned me around when I was a born-again Christian, that really challenged me, was the idea that there are so many different kinds of gods. And if we do a show of hands of your listeners, how many believe in Zeus or these different kinds of Greek gods? Well, they'll all be atheists. The difference between me as a non-believer and them as a non-believer is that we've all dismissed all these other gods except this one monotheistic God. Clearly, this is a historical, culturally determined concept, God and religion is.
There's something that's deep inside of all of us that tells us there's more than just a story going on here, and I want to know what it is. And I think part of the move to fundamentalism, to some degree, in that it's a genuine move back to the fundamentals, is it trying to get in touch with something you can really depend on, something you can actually know, not just a guess, not just a shot in the dark, not just a fantasy, not just a religious a placebo or something like that, but actually the real McCoy.
Clearly, this is a historical, culturally determined concept, God and religion is.
Our God is an awesome God. He reigns from heaven above.
the Savior, the Redeemer, the one-man show, the one party, the one opinion, the charisma, the Savior, the Redeemer, the one-man show, the one party, the one opinion, the charisma, the Savior, the Redeemer, the one-man show, the one party, the one opinion.
And I see both of these things kind of happening at the same time.
Well, I have to disagree with that.
Okay,
obviously, I don't think there's any God, and if you want to have meaning in your life, it's up to you to give meaning to your life. And generally, I find that people who work on causes, people that try to reach out to other people, find a great deal of meaning in their life. And it's not just an empty experience. We're all part of humanity together here.
That's it for It's All in Your Head FM tonight on Over the Edge. I will be back next week. I don't know what he just said, but I hope it was important. Chaos at the end. I will be back next week. Barb will be off. She's gone away. In fact, I'll take her place for 2 months in a row. So we'll see you next week right here at Over the Edge. This is KPFA, KPFB in Berkeley, KFCF in Fresno. Thank you, Anonymous 1 and Anonymous 2 from Negativland. And stay tuned for the Puzzling Evidence Show.
Our journey is almost at an end. And on behalf of all behalf. Our journey is almost at an end. On behalf of your host, Ford Motor Company, and the creative staff of the Walt Disney Studio, who dreamed up this adventure, I hope you've enjoyed your trip.
To create is divine. To reproduce is human. Man Ray.
Yeah, good luck. Bye. Bye-bye.